Hello angels, and welcome back to my channel. It is RaeSavvy here to help you live your blessed life in the most frugal way possible. Today's content is crafted for the fly, frugal mommy in you. Dun, dun, dun. I present to you the Mommy and Me Mermaids 3000s. This is a cute yet fabulous DIY that you can do no matter how crafty you are. Before we get into it, I really want to thank you all for clicking on this video and watching to begin with. I really can't ask for much more than for you to go ahead and click that subscribe button and that notification bell so you get all my updates when I do more of these videos. I am planning so many DIYs with my birthday and my little one baby Savvy's birthday coming up. I have so much in store. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay angels, so I am using a skater style shoe to complete this upscale DIY. You can of course use whatever shoe you may have. These shoes are not identical of course, but they are close enough in style to achieve an almost identical look. So from this technique that I've adapted from other YouTubers and believed to be the easiest way to upscale a shoe, you're going to need some paper and a pen. The closer the paper is to like a tissue paper, the better, since you at this point will be attempting to make a pattern for your shoe. So I'm just going to be working on the top front part of my shoe. So I go in with scissors pretty much to cut the paper to the shape of the front of the shoe. And then for even more precision, I'm going to be trying to outline the seam of the shoe to make the pattern for where the fabric needs to cover. So I place my paper on the top of the shoe, covering all the spots that I need to outline. And then I go in with my pen, filling for the seam and then following where I fill that seam. Like so. I of course can't see exactly where the seam is, so it won't be perfect, but getting that general shape is really what I'm going for right now. This tongue part was a little tricky, but I eventually get it all traced out. And this is what it looks like. So from there, I'm going to repeat the same process for the other two parts of the shoe. There's going to be 3-part totals for each shoe. So once I have this outlined to the best of my ability, I go ahead and I'm going to cut out these outlines. And then for even more accuracy, I'm going to go ahead and add a seam allowance to the shapes that I have. I pretty much just glued another piece of paper to the back of this paper and added about 1 centimeter of space between the two papers just to give me that much allowance to glue this fabric down. The fabric that I'm going to be using is some Sequined that has 2 colors on it. I had this already from a previous project, but you can of course purchase fabric from most craft stores. Michael has fabric for about $9.99, I believe, for a couple yards. So that should be enough to complete this project. So at this point, I'm going to use the pattern that I created to cut out the shape for each part of the shoe. So I just had these scissors handy. They're not the best option for cutting this type of fabric with sequins on it, because of course you're going to experience some shedding, because you'll be shedding and cutting through some of the sequins pieces, which is not all bad. I'll get into that later. But I think a better option at this point would be to use a blade, or like a rolling blade, so you won't get as much shedding as I did here. Even with the shedding and the task of cutting through this thick fabric, it came out much better than I expected. I thought the fabric was going to frail up a little bit more, but it really wasn't all that bad. And I was very impressed with the outcome and very excited to move forward. So I repeat this process with the 2 other shapes for each shoe. Before I go ahead and glue it down, I took a extra step here because I thought it would make just a nice touch to my project. So I'm going to be using some acrylic paint and fabric paint to make these shoes more in unison. As you see, RaeSavvy's shoe has a pink trim that's not on my shoe or a part of the plan right now. So I'm going to cover it with this fabric paint. It's like the puffy paint that you can get for like t-shirts. I decided to use it because it'll give it like a glossy finish, and I went ahead and smoothed it out with a foam brush. I had to add 2 layers to get the whiteness that I desired. For my shoe, I just went ahead and used acrylic white paint because the off-whiteness of my shoe made it look pretty dirty, even though I cleaned the shoe before I started, and it just wasn't with the plan, and yeah, I needed it to be white. So you can of course use some white shoe polish. It'll pretty much give you the same look, but just FYI, acrylic paint is only $1, so why not? And from the discussion boards that I was reading, and from people who design shoes often, they said that acrylic paint will really hold up well. It's not going to come off unless you intentionally try to soak it off, as long as you don't overuse it. You don't want to put multiple layers of acrylic paint on your shoe because it will end up cracking. Like I said, I was really impressed with the outcome, and this is not even dry. So when it dried, it became even more smoother, and it just was what I was going for. But another alternative to acrylic paint is like a Sharpie marker. People were saying that was a good idea. So any of these options pretty much would work. Go with what you have. So my next step is going to be introducing some E6000 glue to get our sequence pieces attached to our shoe. So I'm going to be working from seam to seam again. So I'm going to apply the glue right down the seam of the shoe. Since this is how the shoe is fashioned, I'm going to mimic exactly how the shoe is fashioned with my sequence pieces. So that step of adding that seam allowance with our patterns is very important because you don't want to have this frilly looking edge on any part of your shoe. So you want to be able to fold over the fabric wherever there is an edge. I would say the most time consuming part of this project is allowing the fabric to stay in place, to stick to the glue, and letting the glue cure enough to move on. So I spent a lot of my time pressing fabric into place and folding the pieces down to press into place. That was really just the most consumption of this project. I think I spent about a good maybe 4 hours on all 4 shoes total. So hour per shoe pretty much. So I pressed the glue in place for about 1 minute, but then I let the glue sit for about 10 minutes to give me an anchor because I didn't want the fabric slipping out of place while I was working on it. So here I am checking to make sure all the pieces are pretty much dry and not slipping before I move forward. I really should have some gloves on at this point because I got glue all over my hands and paint, but just crafting, getting down and dirty. But like I said, pressing stuff in place and making sure the glue is really holding down the edges properly was really just the bulk of this project. So press, 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 press. Please just press, press, press in place. You'll see in this video that I'm even going back and re-gluing and re-pressing things because you just want to make sure it doesn't come up because that would just be unfortunate. The total curing time for this glue is about 72 hours, but after about 10 minutes of holding things in place or letting it dry in place, I was pretty much good. I didn't have any movement. And I'm of course going to let it dry fully before wearing them, but that is the biggest piece of advice I can give you all from this DIY is to press your fabric into place and hold it. So eventually I get past my shoes and I'm able to move on to Baby Savvy shoes, and I'm glad I did it in this order because I got the bulk of the project out of the way. The way that Baby Savvy shoe is made, it made it easier for me to lay my seam allowance down because of the trim that was thick and protruding out of the fabric enough to give me a space to put the glue. So I really like how her shoe came out. And just a quick tip. So right here, you see I have a space right there. Like the pattern didn't line up exactly how I wanted to right at that point. So those pieces that I told you, the shedding pieces of sequins that are now all over my floor, I will show you all what you can do to fill that hole with the sequins pieces here. So you're just going to want to apply some glue and then go in with your sequins pieces and like place them on the glue so it's almost undetectable that there ever was any discrepancy with your fabric. And there you have it. Thank you all so much for watching and watching to the very end. I really appreciate the watch. Like I said before, it really goes a long way. I'm loving all the support I'm getting. It's really bringing out the motivation I need to keep creating for you all. So I just want to thank you all for watching. Again, go ahead, subscribe. And as always, I just want to thank you so much, and I hope you continue, I pray you continue to live your blessed life. We done. Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye.